I think this movie is both things. I think it's both a reimagining and it's, stays true to the elements of the original that everyone loves. You're going to have all those songs you love. You're going to have all that sense of nostalgia whilst adding new things, new songs, new characters, which is the most exciting part of reimagining something. In the original movie, Jasmine is fighting for her choice. She sees right through all the ulterior motives of the men around her and the suitors and all of those different things. I think which is amazing, and I think that those are foundational things that were really important to me, things that I loved growing up, that I absolutely took and tried to, replicate. However, I think for this movie, what's great is she's not just fighting for her own choice. She's fighting for the choice of others, and she's fighting for to make other people's lives better because she wants to rule over people that she loves so much. So I think that's kind of awesome. Is she's even more ambitious. She's looking out for the kingdom as a whole and their well-being. First of all, Will is so incredibly iconic, which is interesting because when he recorded the songs, it really took just a split second for me to just be like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. I think it's really not to be underestimated, the musical ability that Will has and his performance. He has so much musicality, and that's so important for that to like pop on screen, and it really does. I mean, Will already, bursts through the screen, and he has such a energy and he's obviously so larger than life, and I think that is what the genie is. The genie is someone you root for, someone that you love, and someone that you laugh with. And for me, those are all qualities that Will has, and he poured his heart and soul into this. And as soon as you see him on screen, you feel at home, and that's how I felt watching him. Mina brings an authenticity to what he does and a depth to it as well. I think Aladdin's not just this fun-loving character. There's a depth to him, and there's clearly something missing. There's clearly an insecurity about him and who he is. And I think Mina brought that vulnerability, which I thought was really important. Because when he smiles, he's like charming. He has like a beautiful big smile. But I think what was important was to bring that other aspect to it. And also Mina's someone as a person who really makes you feel safe, and he loves to look after you, and that's also really important. As I said before, Aladdin is a trustworthy character. Jasmine feels like in a split moment she can trust him. So I think that's also what Mina brings to the character. And we really did have a wonderful time, and I think we felt like we were this unit, which again is really important on a movie like this. So yeah, I love him. No one else could do it. Just to start off by saying I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan anyway. However, what I think Guy does amazingly well is the tone of a movie and the pace is so important. And I think that for this movie, it is just like it keeps giving. It's so pacey. Like it's always on to the next thing, and it constantly gives you something. And I think that there's also a freedom to how Guy shoots, which allows it to not be so rigid and everything to be choreographed, which of course there are moments that choreography is needed, but there was definitely a freedom about it, which I think was kind of surprising for me, actually. Like a movie that that's this big, you think, okay, everything's going to be to the T, you have to do this, have to do that, but really he allows a lot of space, which I think is really important. The other thing is you can always judge a good director by the way their crew talk about them as well. And his crew, they just would do anything for him. And they really respect him as a director. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I love Guy, loved working with him. Well, of course, the amazing Alan Menken, who is the genius behind these classic songs. Disney enlisted him and Pasek and Paul, amazing lyricists, amazing songwriters. So that kind of force of a team to create this new song, Speechless, which is so powerful. And obviously, I have a connection to that song just because the character, it's, you know, Jasmine's character, she goes through this arc of finding her voice, and yes, she's strong, and yes, she stands up for herself, but it takes time. You know, she's not just there at the beginning of the movie, and I think that song is just the climax of when she's like, you know what, enough is enough, and I have a choice here, and I'm gonna speak out, and it may hurt me, I may get backlash from that, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And I think that's a very relatable thing, and I think that's a very good message to put out there. Is it's so important that the people that can speak up do, and that's ultimately what that song is about.